Corlia. As the Taoiseach has already outlined at the beginning of this session, and as I think many of us have agreed and outlined ourselves, there is a significant risk of a no-deal Brexit on the 31st of October, in particular with the prevailing political uncertainty in London. However, throughout the next few weeks, we are hopeful. We are working towards that we will have a positive engagement between the EU and the UK. The UK has said it has difficulties with aspects of the withdrawal agreement, particularly the backstop. In response, the EU's ask has been very clear, and we have always been consistent. Send us written proposals which provide the same legal certainty and operational certainty as the agreement we reached with you in December 2017. The EU is very open to finding a solution, but without this, it will be very difficult to make substantial progress. Against this backdrop, we have to do everything that we possibly can to prepare. This has always been government policy, and we have always been clear that a no-deal Brexit brings huge disruption. It brings severe negative economic impacts across this island, and there have been many reports that have outlined this, everything from the Copenhagen Economics Report, reports from Revenue, from Business, Enterprise and Innovation, right back to sectoral reports and reports as far back as before the referendum even took place, and that's why this government has been planning for Brexit since before the referendum took place. It's also why this government took the prudent decision last December to prioritise no-deal planning across all government departments and all state agencies. As I've said before, it's not possible to fully mitigate against a no-deal Brexit, but we've been actively preparing for Brexit to try and make sure that Irish citizens, that businesses are as ready as possible for all scenarios. Our July 2019 Contingency Action Plan, which was updated in July, demonstrates the challenges of a no-deal Brexit will be felt on many levels. It will require engagement at an EU level, it will require responses by government and engagement by business and citizens. I do not accept that there has not been enough information, that there has not been enough support. Across the country, we have held over 1,200 stakeholder preparedness events. This covers sectors ranging from construction to tourism, from issues such as customs requirements to currency fluctuations. This is coming from our government departments, from our agencies, from our county councils and from individual sectors. We have had a huge amount of various different funding schemes available. There was a mention of 60 million earlier. We have 600 million available through two schemes alone. We have over 70 million available through Enterprise Ireland. And while not all of these funds have been drawn down, a huge amount has been approved. And obviously, we can't force people to take or draw down money when they don't feel they need to just yet. But that funding is available to them, and much of it has been approved. Our Budget 2020 will continue the approaches of budgets 2017, 2018 and 2019, and to stress there will not be cuts in this year's budget. We will have over 2 billion in additional spending, 900 million of which will be new funding, so there will not be cuts. However, what we will provide again is dedicated measures to try and get Ireland Brexit ready. As one of the UK's closest trading partners and business partners, Brexit will mean change for all Irish business, regardless of location, regardless of size or sector. It will have a very significant impact on business, particularly those relying on goods trading with the UK. However, again, to stress, as the Taoiseach outlined earlier, 96 or 98%, 96% of the value of exports have their EORI number, 88% of those importing. But it's not only goods, obviously, that will be affected. Businesses, for example, who have contracts with the UK service provider will also need to review their position. I was at the Ploughing Championships myself yesterday, as I know many deputies were, and indeed today again, and the government's Brexit hub was busy all day. A series of briefings is taking place over this week, over the next few days, and staff from various different agencies are available to take questions. These are just some of the various different events that are still happening and that will happen over the course of the next month. While much took place in advance of March 29th this year, we have been developing and increasing our engagement, not just on a one-to-one basis, but in terms of our online platform and portfolios, and also helping the agencies to continue in that level of engagement and hosting various different events. We have a wide range of advice for both citizens and business on how they can prepare, and this is obviously available on the gov.ie/Brexit. Many deputies have outlined and discussed the land bridge, and I know this is an area that is causing significant concern on how the UK land bridge will function in the event of a no deal. It's of course significant, it's important as a route for goods travelling to and from Ireland to mainland Europe, and given its importance, the Government has been working to try and facilitate its functionality post-Brexit as far as is possible. We've been engaging in particular with our colleagues in France and Belgium and in the Netherlands to make sure that Irish goods can be transported through, and that we have access as quickly as possible, that it would not get held up perhaps in the same traffic as our UK colleagues. However, when it comes to the UK land bridge, that becomes much more difficult and not something that we can predict in terms of delays and in terms of what the UK government themselves are doing. It is important to be aware that using of the land bridge after Brexit will not replicate the status quo for operators. It will depend on traders being compliant also with the new requirements under the Common Transit Convention to be in line with EU requirements. Targeted information campaigns again on this are underway to ensure that operators are aware of the steps that they must take and the supports that are available to them. We also noted in our July 2019 Contingency Action Plan update that operators should also be prepared for delays at UK ports, given the general disruption a no-deal Brexit will cause. In terms of border checks, again, this has been asked of by many deputies here, and I know business and citizens are concerned about what measures may be in place to ensure the integrity of the single market on the island of Ireland and how this will impact not only on trade but on the border communities also. The Government has been very clear about our objectives since the UK decided to leave: protecting the Good Friday Agreement, preserving North-South cooperation and the gains of the peace process. This includes protecting the all-island economy and avoiding the emergence of a hard border on the island of Ireland. They are priorities. They have been and will continue to be. These objectives were delivered by the Withdrawal Agreement. It includes the backstop. It is the only solution currently on the table that delivers the outcomes that everybody, including the UK, wants to achieve. In the absence of the Withdrawal Agreement, there are no easy solutions. As the Contingency Action Plan says, there should be no illusion, and we are saying this very clearly: nobody should be under any illusion that a no-deal Brexit would result in far-reaching change on the island of Ireland. The Government is working closely with the European Commission to meet our twin shared objectives of protecting the single market and Ireland's place in it, and this work is looking at necessary checks to preserve Ireland's full participation in the single market and the customs union. It's important to ensure any possible arrangements in a no-deal scenario would be suboptimal to the backstop and would have profound implications for North-South trade, including through the impact of tariffs, checks, additional costs and the administrative burdens. Should the UK decide to leave the EU without a deal, the risks for Northern Ireland and indeed for the Good Friday Agreement are significant. And again, this is not something that we are playing down. These are very real risks and threats. It's important to remember that Ireland is working on preparedness contingency planning as part of the EU27 with the full support of the European Commission and other Member States, with all the stability and the solidarity that that brings. Many of the actions that are aimed at mitigating the effects of Brexit will be taken at the EU level, as they involve sectoral regulated by the EU law, and many of them have been published in various different versions. As recently as 2 weeks ago have been published by the EU Commission. They've put in place a number of contingency measures aimed at mitigating the impact of a no-deal scenario in a range of sectors, in particular importance to us: aviation, finance, road transport. Furthermore, they have published over 80 Brexit preparedness notices which provide guidance for business and citizens, and all of the work that we do works in parallel and in line with the work of the Commission. To conclude, finally, Brexit presents an unprecedented challenge to Ireland, and it's only by governments, by business, by citizens working together with the EU partners that we can aim to mitigate as far as possible the implications and the impacts of a no-deal Brexit, to ensure that we are as prepared as we can be for the changes that it brings. I want to take this opportunity to thank the House not only for their contributions this evening, but for their broad support for the Government's approach to the Brexit negotiations, for the support in March to facilitate the passage of the Brexit Omnibus Bill, which has already been deployed and can be deployed, or ready to be deployed, in the event of a no-deal. On Monday I was in Brussels for the General Affairs Council, where I met with my European colleagues, all 26, for the General Affairs Council, both this week and throughout the negotiation process. The solidarity that we have received from Member States, from the EU as a whole, have been strong, consistent and unwavering, and that has not changed this week either. In my time as Minister for EU Affairs, it has been a very positive reminder, I think, of what our EU membership means. We face this challenge as a member of 27 states working together, something which has been clearly to our benefit and perhaps something which others did not expect. I've accompanied many of my counterparts on visits to the border region, as they have wanted to see firsthand what Brexit means for the island of Ireland. I can conclude by saying that membership of the EU has been transformative for Ireland. Our continued EU membership and all the certainty that brings is our best defence in dealing with a no-deal Brexit. Thank you.